Hello, everybody. Welcome to the art stream today. Uh, it is, of course, your host, Meerkat. With me today are Perp and Holly.
Hi.
Hello.
And today, uh, we're going to be continuing our work with Song of Origins artwork. You want to walk us through what we're doing today, Perp?
So we're finally getting into the movement of the Song of Origins, where you start getting those namesake bugs showing up. But right now, there's a lot of early stuff going on with the point in the story that these characters are showing up. So I'm doing a bit of concepting for character design in the lead up to.
So we're just, it's not going to be a super intensive day today. Mostly just chilling. And for those of you who are tuned in who have already watched the Song of Origins video, we hope you enjoyed it. That's been years in the making, and we're really excited to finally have that out.
Yeah, it's a relief, honestly, just to have that first art out there where people can see it.
Yeah. Oh, it was. We basically started the process back in 2022, and then there were a few hiccups along the way as far as getting the art material underway. And then as we were waiting on that stuff, a bunch of other stuff occurred on the last half of 2022 that just threw big wrenches into the project that kind of forced me into going more into the game development side of it, and we weren't able to properly revisit working on that video again until last year, and so that's when we finally started getting the art assets all put together, and we're still doing that today. Uh, Luckily, we kind of decided instead of doing it all in one dump, we were gonna do it in multiple parts to at least get you guys that content out there, because we know that y'all have been itching for it. So it's also very, very cool to be able to work with voice actors that I really admire, like Gianni and Tamara, or Tamara. I don't know how she prefers her name pronounced. This is also very useful because as you're working on your designs for them, this is also material that can be used for when we go to 3D model.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
So Kayla asks, as more and more bespoke content is produced, I'm sure a lot of folk now have way more confidence in the project. Likewise, is the team benefiting from the morale boost, and has the project timeline expanded or accelerated because of it? I can't speak for everybody. I'm certainly experiencing a morale boost. I'm exhausted, but I certainly feel good about the work that we're doing and about all of the kind words we've received. I'm sure Holly feels the same.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And I'm sure Perp also is happy to see his work out there as well.
It's nice getting to finally pull the cork on the proverbial champagne bottle.
Yeah.
Just like or finally being able to just like, oh yeah, I drew this back in like 2023.
Yeah. And it's definitely nice. Like, we've been sitting on a lot of assets for this, and we haven't been able to show them off, and so being able to get them out there has been very cathartic. Being able to finally show what a lot of these pieces were made for. We've kind of teased some of them. I used the Aoyama shot from that video in the Welcome to the World of Colony video. I use that as the establishing shot of Aoyama. Not all of the assets in there, but a lot of them. And has the project timeline expanded or accelerated because of it? I don't think it's necessarily done either of those things. We have been on a very meticulous and realistic schedule for ourselves. Working on ensuring that what we're doing is within the realm of possibility. We are working toward trying to get part 2 out within the next couple of months. Hopefully, we don't want to set any scheduled releases publicly that we're not, because this is all passion project work and it's all volunteer and real life will always come first. The prospect of adding very specific dates to things is not always the best way to go about it. We do put dates in our own internal calendar for our use, but they are more guidelines and goals rather than hard deadlines. And if we need to push them back by a couple of weeks, so be it. That's kind of what happened this past schedule around, because so we were supposed to have an extra 2 weeks in December to get artwork done. And then I had my medical emergency back at the beginning of December, and so I just said, I don't think I'm going to have the morale to do any colony work this month, so everybody just got the whole month off. And then we saw that pretty much that we would have been well on schedule to get it out in that late January timetable that we were hoping for if that event had not occurred. So I can say that I think that our projections for how well we're able to get stuff done is probably pretty realistic. It's just we work around real life, so that's the holdback, I suppose.
We learned a lot from doing that whole first part.
Yeah. Especially, I think, as one of the music guys and the guy who does all the narration and everything, making sure Perp has access to the tone of what he is and the tempo of what he's drawing for really does help him in the long run. So having that done sooner rather than later is much more optimal.
The
Yep, definitely some growing pains there.
Speaking of, I heard back from Bennett about working on Movement 5's music. He said the next time that he has a day off, we'll work on it. So hopefully we'll see that soonish.
Okay, great.
He's much in. I don't know how he does it, but he like when he just sits down and works on it, he just gets into that flow state and it just goes. It's pretty cool. He had Movement 2's music done very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like within a week of us like asking him to do it, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, I can do that, no problem." Yeah. I tend to be much more of an as inspired kind of a composer, and I was lucky that that happened for Movement 4's music and narration pretty fast. I was able to get that done in like 2 days, which I was very happy about.
Mm-hmm.
I like that mustache you're giving him.
yeah, there, and can I kind of come frontwards?
Yeah. It's a really good way to interpret it. It's pretty cool. Or because like with with a lot of the other species with their antenna pointing off the top of their heads, we kind of interpret those more as like eyebrows. This being a mustache is great.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. I guess now would be a cool time to also say we're submitting the Song of Origins Part 1 into a uh, a independent film contest here in the Portland area. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun even just to have more people looking at it,
Yeah,
regardless of how it does the competition.
yeah. I'm not gonna be gunning for it to like. I don't care if it wins any prizes or anything, but I think it'll be at least cool that I'll be able to see it on a big screen.
Mm-hmm.
I know at one point that was kind of what the hope was going to be, that back in like 2022 I was still living in the Tucson area, there's a local film competition down there called First Friday Shorts, at a wonderful movie theater called The Loft, that has one of the last 70 millimeter film projection screens, like in the Southwest United States. And I got to see Dune in Dune Part 2 in 70 millimeter on that, and that was really, really cool.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was, when we were first making the Song of Origins video back in the day, that was basically what the plan was going to be. Was I was going to we were going to release it all as like one big chunk, and we estimated back then that it was going to be about 45 minutes, and I was like, yeah, that'd be it's not necessarily like a short that folks would want to sit 45 minutes in, but there's other like film, like indie film nights that they have where they do show off the longer format ones. So I was like, that would be a cool place to be able to show it off. And so the intention was always that this was going to be of a quality that I would be happy to show off at a film festival, and it has far and away exceeded my expectations on that. I'm super excited to be able to show that off next weekend. Excuse me.
The fact that Clip Select Tool lets you do that is just so cool to me.
Every time I just watch Perp do anything, Perp and Matt do anything in art programs, it always blows my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how any of this works.
Wonderful stuff.
Wow! Especially excited to, because like theater sound systems are gonna just rock listening to the soundtrack and the narration on that. I'm super excited.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh hey Bonsai, glad I could catch the stream on my break. I was so excited when I saw the Song of Origins video posted. Awesome work. Gianni is one of my favorite voice actors. Same here. And I'm glad that you could come and hang out with us too, dude. Glad to see you around. Man, I am just very yawny today.
It means we have to scare you.
Is that what that means?
Probably not. But like, hey, as long as we don't tell Mir that.
Of course.
I'll just cover my ears and pretend I didn't hear it.
If it doesn't ramp fast enough.
Hmm. Whoa!
Big bug in your face. And it goes round.
As Biggie would put it, Grah!
Mm-hmm. So what kind of color palette did you have in mind for the Sikau in the Shotner?
It's a great question. I knew that what I wanted for when they settle into the bark of the mother's trunk, that it would almost make it look like the trunk is encrusted with different jewels. Like emeralds and blues and reds. And they're just like, and all of that being glinted off of the wings and the eyes of the Sikau.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess as far as like the coloration, let me go take a look at some different cicada, and I'll tell you what I like. That one you sent earlier, Holly, was beautiful.
The iridescent one?
Yeah, that one's like, it's pretty far up there on like the what I'd like the aesthetic to look like. Let's see.
It's amazing when nature does so much work for us already.
Yeah. Have you thought about using a scorpion type design? We have the Skor are they're one of the monster races within our mythology. We actually have a lore short on our channel that talks about the Skor. I think it might be one of the more recent lore shorts that we posted. It's been a while since we've posted lore shorts, and those might be coming back. Maybe we're talking about it. It's in the works.
Still figuring some things out.
Yeah.
But it's on our minds.
But yeah, the Skor are a since they're a monster race, they're almost like trolls or ogres. They want to kind of keep to themselves. They live in caves, or they like to bury themselves in sand. They don't really look as they don't have the same kind of morphological change that the Sakuda have, where they have more slightly anthropomorphized features. They're much more just their basic scorpion-looking selves. I was thinking about a potential story set in Colony and ended up down a rabbit hole of ant physiology. Do the Aegiphora have different sizes of workers like fire ants? They do. They absolutely do. The we when it comes to the way that we try and adapt the different tribes of ants, we try and respect their hierarchical castes within their naturally found real life equivalents. So yes, they have several different sizes of different castes. They have warriors, they got workers. Yeah. Here's some inspiration for you, Perp. I will send it to you directly. Or actually, you know what? I will post it in Colony VC to text. There you go. What do you think about...
Or GB?
Yeah, exactly. Would you think about using army ants? What would army ants be like? So we do have plans to do a lot of different tribal expansions. I have not investigated tons about army ants, although what I do recall knowing about them is that they're more like they don't have centralized hills the way that other ant species do. They're more like raiders, and they'll go in and steal larvae, and they use larvae for food. So they're probably going to be more like they're probably going to be more like a kind of the way the Erg are. So the Erg are another species of almost feral flora. So the Erg are based off of slaver ants, which they're parasitic species. They go in and they annex another ant species colony, typically a formic colony, and the queen will kind of douse herself in the dead queen, in the host queen's pheromones to trick all of the workers from the host colony into thinking that she's their queen, and then they'll take care of her brood for her, because the slaver ant workers have very sharply barbed pincers that they can't gently take care of their queen's brood, and so that's why they have this parasitic relationship. It's very, very, very fascinating looking at them, and so they'd probably, obviously within the context of colony, the Erg are they're viewed as outcasts, and the other more civilized tribes of Fora really do not like them. They don't keep company with them. They're outcasts. And likewise, army ants, if my memory serves me correct on that they're like raiding ants like that, they'd probably be treated in much the same way, where they'd be enemies rather than a neighboring nation that they would do trade with and stuff like that. Also, army ants don't build nests. Right. Army ants generally army ants are generally rather mobile, and they would probably wreak havoc on other colonies of your ants. Yep. Yep. Very much the same line of thinking. You know, there's also like we have other kinds of uh like different species that are represented in kind of the same way, where they're almost like bandits. For instance, flies are almost equivalent to like goblinoids. So like if you think of how in D&D's more modern takes on goblins and orcs and stuff, they kind of think of them as all being a part of this larger group of species. Like they all kind of stem from the same family, and so they have a lot of these same kinds of goblin traits. And especially, I think one of the ways that they display that in fifth edition is they kind of a lot of them share the same nose structure, and like a lot of other like ears and facial structures and stuff like that, but they're different sizes and different morphologies of this same idea. In that same way, we're kind of approaching that with the flies. That flies are very, very, very primitive species. They're scavengers. They don't hunt, but they do attack if they feel threatened or desperate. And especially some of the larger species of flies, like horse flies and stuff like that, are going to be much tougher. And yeah, like kind of comparing them to that same idea of like goblinoids, like goblins, orcs, hobgoblins, those kinds of things. And it's kind of an easy way to approach that idea. Yeah, a basic enemy you can use. And that's not to say that you can't use, like, if you have, like, for instance, we have Leanfora, which are Argentine ants. We have Igifora, which are fire ants. We have Pophora, which are uh, harvester ants. We have a variety of different ant species, and they have within the setting that I'm currently writing, they have treaties that uh, make sure that nobody's at war with each other. But you can, within your own stories, you can have it so that way uh, they can be at war with each other. They can be having trade disputes or just interpersonal beef with each other. You can have a variety of ways you can approach your own storytelling within this world. I'm just kind of providing this overall backdrop of how to do it. Um, how are you going to handle murder hornets? Murder hornets. So there has been funny enough. So the first uh like expansion base game base setting for Colony, we've been taking a lot of inspiration from the species within the surrounding area of like southern to central California, and some of like northern California as well, and a little bit from the deserts off to the east of California. Just kind of blending as feels right, as fits the aesthetic, as fits the rule of cool. And the one of the things that I made note of was that we finally eradicated the Japanese murder hornets from America. Supposedly, I read a report on it. I don't know how valid that report is, but I did read that, and I immediately went to Holly, and I was like, "Thank God we don't have to develop for that." That's not to say they won't ever be in Colony, but at current moment, we don't have any plans to add in murder hornets, but they're probably going to be in there at some point. Just not quite yet. Oh yeah, yeah, mimic spiders. We've talked about those before.
Mhm.
um, we're kind of trying to develop this in a way so that way homebrew is not necessarily like and anything homebrewed becomes canonized, but that way like homebrew is easy for folks who for stuff that we have not developed species for. uh there's kind of this backdrop of like how to approach developing your own homebrewed mechanics for it, because especially with just like this massive order uh of species that arthropods are, both terrestrial and aquatic, just all of them. There's just so many species to the degree that, and I've said this before, every 1 out of 4 living things on the planet is a beetle. There's just no way that we're going to be able to cover absolutely everything. But if we can set up if we can work to develop a system that allows you to be able to develop all of your favorites in, and that it works as smoothly as we can make it for you, then that's kind of how we're developing this world to be and the game to be. How destructive are wildfires in the setting? Great question. That's actually, I'm fine talking about this because it's not canon anymore. It just adds more to the backdrop of the trivia of developing Colony. So Wildfire, I had this idea of like developing the world so that way it's been a very, very, very long time since like lightning storms have been a thing. Like just ecologically speaking, for whatever reason, lightning storms just weren't really a thing for a while. And so there's just this moment where a lightning strike hits a very specific tree, and it just, is a devastating moment and it starts a wildfire. I've thought about that before. Wildfires are very destructive in Colony, though. That being said, insects are, especially with the way that the Sakuda are, they've learned and adapted over time to understand that wildfires are just a thing of nature and they're going to happen anyway. So they've kind of figured out ways to secure themselves against as much destruction as can be wrought upon them through wildfires. They have kind of learned how to design fire breaks and stuff like that around their colonies and stuff. The Fora especially are they prefer to build their mountains in more like in the center of meadows and like clearings, so that way if there is any chance of like trees falling on top of them or just trees in the general vicinity collapsing on themselves, then they won't collapse near the mountain. So that's kind of the way that they go about that. The Apoi probably are the second most likely to have to deal with trees falling on them. The first, of course, being the Terra, the termite folk. In their lore that I've been writing, more of the Song of Aoyama stuff, they have a whole thing that happens where the first time that they excavate a tree to like build a new home in it, they dig too greedily and the tree collapses on them and they have to rebuild from that destruction. Apoi, of course, being bee folk and their hives more often than not being in higher branches of trees, they would likely be developing. They'd be building in as thick of tree trunks as like they'd be developing in trees that have thick trunks, and they'd probably in this day and age, in the contemporary time of the Colony story, they'd probably hire Terra to come in and like do what do you call it?
Construction.
Well, either construction or just like checking out the tree and making sure that it's healthy and that it's not gonna collapse on them anytime soon.
Inspections.
Yeah, inspections. There's like it's a term that they use in the construction business for it. I'm trying to remember it off the top of my head. Either way, so they would probably have the Terra come in and inspect the tree and make sure that it's okay for them to build before they build any new hives in those trees.
Surveying, perhaps.
Surveying, yes, that's the term I was looking for. Surveying. Thank you, Holly.
Yeah, no problem.
But yeah, so the are cicadas as loud and annoying as they are in real life as in the settings? They do sing. So in my setting, the Sikau are almost like self-exiled out into the desert. They have a cathedral out there where they do their worship, and that's so all of their singing is kind of like secluded away off in the deserts like that. So you don't. The forests are eerily quiet. During the summers, it's like almost strange how quiet they are. At least to a human who's used to cicadas in the summer, they'd be very freaked out at the lack of cicada song. Oh, hey Dusty, how's it going, dude? Good to see you. So the cicadas are, yes, they do sing, they do, they're chirping. The Sakuda probably do not think of it as annoying though. In the context of the setting, they're probably just, they're viewed as a very musical folk, so they just view it as singing. Thanks, Dusty. Yeah, I appreciate it, dude. I'm glad that you're here. Been working hard. Oh, and I see Perps doing different perspectives now. That's sweet.
Gotta get that turnaround.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting that we don't, of all of the core races, the Sikau are like kind of the ones we've neglected the most as far as artwork for them.
Well, there hasn't really been a great need for it, has there?
No, not really. I just find it funny, like in the same way that we didn't have artwork of the E-Dome for a long time, to such an extent that the first E-Dome artwork was fan artwork. So, but we beat the fans to the Sikau, so that's cool.
Yeah, score one us.
Yeah, that first piece of Sikau artwork that Matt made of them in the cathedral is just incredible.
Oh yeah.
In the desert, how often are antlions having to be dealt with? Frequently. So in my setting, there's no there's no colonies that like there's no Fora tribes that live in mountains in the desert, because the nearest desert to them is called the Glass Desert. The Glass Desert has this impossibly thin layer of glass over the top of it that is like shattered, and it's so thin that if even Sakuda were to trip and hit themselves on this on the surface of this desert, they'd be torn to bits. They just impossibly sharp glass on the surface of the desert. There is only one safe road that leads through it, and antlions and skur and all manner of other monsters lurk, waiting for travelers on the road to just drop their guard for an instant for them to make a move. So yeah, antlions, if you are on the desert road, then you would have to be very, very careful of antlions. I think they're called the mele. The antlions are. There's mele, skur, arak, kiel. Lots more children of the amber, the monster races, than just those. But Still have to get around to working on all of them.
One thing at a time.
One thing at a time. Do we... Oh, I haven't checked the schedule for a community hangout day anytime soon.
Oh, yeah, I don't think we have them scheduled out at the moment.
Yeah, we didn't have any scheduled for February. And maybe just as well. The February's been busy. Let's have it we'll schedule out maybe March 2nd for a community hangout in the Discord server. That'll be cool because that'll be hot off the trail of the film festival.
Ooh, yeah.
Might be able to give a little report. In swampy areas, what are dragonflies in those areas? So dragonflies are beasts of burden. Dragonflies aren't just in swampy areas. They're in any area that has sufficient enough water surrounding it, and a number of the more densely populated areas of Taman, the setting that I'm working on, they have a lot. The main like focal areas, the like what do you call them? Like the capital cities of Taman, usually have some body of water around them. The capital Fora city in Taman is called Tamalin Mons, which means the mountain of the lean in Taman. And the lean Fora, being Argentine ants are renowned for domesticating aphids and using aphids as livestock. They drink the honeydew that aphids produce. In that same vein, we decided to kind of extrapolate on that idea and be like, oh, so the lean may also be into domesticating other species of insects that aren't sentient like the core species are, like the Sakuda species are. So the dragonflies fall under that category of like them being wild beasts. They're not really monsters, they're just kind of viewed as animals. And the Fora have taken to, or the Fora Lean specifically, have taken to using dragonflies, Optea, as flying mounts for some of their more renowned warriors. Wild dragonflies, though, are... You can almost view them as like oh, how would you say it? Almost like, imagine if horses were carnivorous. Like they just kind of hunt in small packs, small herds. And of course, dragonflies are, if I remember correctly, like the number one most efficient predator on the planet. Ego Flame, hey, welcome. And so, like, you know, they are obviously carnivorous. They focus mostly on flying insects, so as prey animals. And so if you are if you are a flying Sakuda in the vicinity of a swampy area with a lot of Optea just hanging out in the area. You probably don't want to take off because that would really severely trigger their hunting instincts to eat you. So yeah. It's just occurred to me. Uh, I was just thinking, oh, the Terra, maybe they don't like. Uh, they one of their traits is that maybe they don't like flying so much as a method of transportation. And or like even being at great heights, like really tall heights, just because they're so used to being close to the ground. And then I realized that I'm just leaning more and more into the dwarf analog with the
Yeah.
Terra. You kind of had to rework your manga, turned it into a superhero-like style with cards. That's cool, dude. Hey, you know what? Reworking the project, there's nothing wrong with that. We've gone through several iterations with Colony.
Yeah.
I really like the one we're on now, though. I think we've hit an excellent stride with our current design philosophies and our art direction and everything. It's great. I'm really happy with it.
Oh yeah. And after a certain point, you do just kind of have to start developing. You have to say, okay, the floorboards are in place now. We're not ripping them up anymore.
Yeah. Start putting the scaffolding in. Start putting the the shoot. What's the term for like when you have your wall boards up? Can't remember those. What those are called. Man.
Well, drywall?
Oh no, not drywall. Like putting your studs up. Not exactly scaffolding. Scaffolding isn't really a part of the building itself.
The frame.
Yeah, the frame. Yeah, wall frames. Yeah, thank you. It's insane that like I have myself like erected barns and stuff like that. My dad, you know, he used to work construction when he was a teenager, and he's taught me all of this stuff, and I still just forget so much like this.
If you don't, as long as you know what's supposed to go there, words don't really matter.
Yeah. A rose by any other name. Um, the I think one of the things that I love about our direction currently on Colony is that what I was doing initially, which was kind of necessary at the point at which I was doing it, was I was developing it understanding that this world was going to be enormous, that this project was going to be unfathomably large, and that we were going to be covering multiple continents worth of content eventually. And I was trying to ensure that I was like future proofing a lot of the groundwork concepts to make sure that we could do that eventually. And then finally Holly comes in and is like, I see what you're doing. I think we're there. Stop focusing on the big picture. Start focusing on one project at a time here now. I think that's Holly has definitely helped us just focus in and get like helped us get work done. Like really substantial work done on the project since she's come on.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. couldn't be here without you.
I just kind of see it as like, you know, it has to be done in order to build some of the parts of the game that we have yet to do. We need to have like lore material to build them with. So now that the basics are in place, now you get to kind of go back to doing what it is that you really like to do and the part that you're supposed to be on originally before it all had to expand in scope to cover things across the team.
Yeah. The 2022 just threw me through the ringer, man.
Yeah.
that being said, I think that some of the largest leaps and bounds that we made as far as the game development happened in 2023. Uh, that was like when the first structures of how we were going to develop the card systems and ensuring that it all worked cohesively together. It all started coming together then. Um, that and those were I think one of the really monumental parts to me of 2023's development was that was the first year we started actually like doing playtesting.
Oh yeah.
That, you know, being able to sit there and be like, oh, this is real. This is in my hands. I am playing this. I am getting feedback. And maybe it's a little trashy right now, but I can fix that. And
Oh, I don't think it was ever trashy.
Oh, okay. There was only one time that I remember thinking this is kind of garbage, and it was the initial attempt at what I was trying to do with the Edome card mechanics.
Oh,
and I
the
hate
really complicated multi-layered one.
yeah, which, you know, on the outside looking at it, it's really cool for somebody who wants to get really in depth into a different style of play. It would have been great.
Yeah.
The only trouble was at lower levels you just couldn't do anything. There was just nothing substantial you could do with that build. It was such a slow burn of a system that it was not fun. Like every time we were playtesting after I had it, I was playing it, and every time I was just like, I can't use these cards. I'm just cycling them out, trying to get cards that I know I can use. So what's the point in having these? And that's when I really hate to say that, because I don't think that it was necessarily a bad system by any means. I think that it was really cool. I just don't think that it fit into what Colony needed it to be.
Oh,
And
right. Maybe in a different system with different rules structures around it, that kind of subsystem could work really well.
Yeah. And I mean, that was like the inspiration for that came from Asher when he was still on the team back before the hack. Which,
Yeah.
which I think I've still got his number somewhere. I need to text him and just see how he's doing. It's been a minute since I've been able to talk to him. But Asher used to play a game it was a computer game. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like very traditional fantasy, but the magic system in it was really, really fascinating. You would it basically had like a symbology syntax that you would construct your own runes around. And it would be like you have a particular shape that gives you a target, and then another shape that gives you like a particular spell effect, and then you have another shape that literally dictates the shape that the spell takes physically within the game itself. It was really cool, and so like having that idea of like the syntax for creating songs using verses, choruses, bridges, climaxes, all that stuff. That was kind of where that whole idea stemmed out of, and didn't really work out as well as I hoped it did. But
Yeah, that system sounds really familiar. I'll have to look and see if I can remember what game that was from.
yeah.
Speaking of contact information, though, it looks like we're getting reports that our Discord link might not be working.
Uh-oh. Let me get us a new one then. One moment. Sometimes that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for letting us know. That, it always helps us. Boom. I've just found a very strange bug on Discord. I'm in streamer mode, which makes it so that way everybody's stuff is hidden on Discord, like usernames and server names and stuff like that. All of that is hidden details. If I go to change a Discord link, and then I go to copy it, it says hidden, semicolon, use copy button. I go to, I hit copy, and then I go to paste it, and then it said what it copies and pastes is hidden, use copy buttons. Could you do me a favor and shoot me a link that you can generate, please, Holly? Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing.
What a goofy bug right there.
Goofy communication platform.
Yeah.
I wanted to say website, but I know that's incorrect.
Yeah. That's all right.
Okay, non-expiring. Good stuff. There you go. Oh, that's the wrong one. Hang on.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, colony. I know exactly which one I'm looking at and what I need to do here.
I'll have to report that bug after the stream to Discord.
Yeah. Okay, let's try that one.
All right. There's a link for our Discord server. Hopefully that works. Let us know. How destructive are tarantulas? I presume you mean tarantulas in the setting, especially the large ones. Tarantulas, kind of horrifying. There are massive tarantulas in comparison to other species, like the Goliath tarantula. Those things are huge. Don't want to mess with those guys. The spiders in general have silk magic, so they weave runes into their into their webs as they're pulling it from their spinnerets, and so you just get these very strange magical abilities that are imbued into their runes, and some of them are like entangling traps, some of them are burning traps. Like, they have a variety of different abilities and effects that can be performed through them. And so tarantulas, when they lay their webs, they tend to lay them in, like, on the ground, and they use them, tarantulas can use their webs to entangle certain smaller species. Most of the time they're using their webs as a way of detection, of like seeing if there's movement across their webs, so that way they can go and just physically attack their prey there. Much in that same way, like the way that different Auroch use their web just depends on the species. It depends on the exact kind of Auroch that we're talking about. They'll use their web according to what's useful, like in ways that are useful specifically for their physiology. They could use them to sense and slow down prey, more specifically the tarantulas. Yeah, absolutely. The Like I said, they can do they can perform entangling spells and stuff like that because the runes kind of have to be triggered. They have the web that they're imbued in has to be disturbed for these runes to activate, for the effect to take place. And so yeah, the having that kind of having that kind of a setup for a tarantula where they specialize more in entangling and entrapping spells would be much more viable for them and much more useful for them since they're slow, rather than more direct damage kind of stuff. We've actually talked to some degree about making it so that way there's a that the this is going to sound very cartoonish, but the Auroch kind of developed a way to lay their runes in their web onto discs made of like clotted dirt that they then throw like frisbees, and when the dirt breaks and snaps the web, that's what triggers the effect on whatever target the frisbee hits. Which is a little bit more cartoony, but I don't know if it's any more cartoony than fantasy bugs in general. So, and we already kind of included like pressure guns with the bellow guns. Like that's already kind of one of those out there far-fetched ideas that I think we approached it from a pretty cool perspective. I really like the bellow guns.
Oh yeah.
I actually forget if we've released a lore short about bellow guns. I'm gonna go double check
I
that.
think we have. Yeah.
Yep, we have. Was that inspired by Bionicle discs? Maybe. Could have been.
I don't know. I ain't inside my brain.
How dare you? How dare you accuse me of something being so completely accurate? I
Who do
certainly
you
am...
think you are, my mirror?
I'm certainly not above like saying that. Yeah, that while in the moment that we came up with it, I don't know if we were necessarily thinking about Kanoka specifically, but you know, when you say that, that's probably like the seeds of where that solution to that idea came from. Um, the I'm absolutely not shy about the fact that I love Bionicle. We wouldn't be here as a project if it weren't for our shared love of Bionicle. Um, it and certainly like the way that we've kind of approached the way that there's this, all of these separate tribes and stuff like that, and the way that they all have these different domains that and specific powers and abilities that are unique to them as a result of their physiology and their culture and their history. Like, we've definitely taken a leaf out of the book of Bionicle, so to speak. I know that at one point somebody said that we're a Bionicle-like, and I actually I made the argument that I don't think we're a Bionicle-like. I think that we're a Dark Crystal-like, because Dark Crystal, before even Bionicle existed, kind of delved into that idea of like the Gelflings were they had these different tribes that had to unify to defeat greater evils, and the Age of Resistance series wasn't quite out there yet, but there were like graphic novels and stuff like that that were made about the for lack of a better term, the High Republic days of the Gelfling folk. So yeah, I would say that if we are anything, if we're going to get shoved into a genre like moniker, I think we're closer to a Dark Crystal like than we are a Bionicle like. I'd argue that Bionicle is a Dark Crystal like as well.
Obviously, the thing that this project is the most like is Galador, and I will not take any slanderous comparisons against.
Agreed.
Dude, anytime we talk about anytime we talk about them using the chitin of other species, that's just glinching, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Speaking of Galador, quick aside, Holly, I would love
Yeah.
to continue watching that show, campy as it is. Yeah, I was having so much fun watching it.
Yeah. I think some people are gonna get together to do some gaming later tonight, so maybe after that's wrapped up.
I'm so down. So down. We have a couple more questions. Trapdoor spiders would use them for sensing their surroundings. Absolutely, I agree with that. They probably also use entangling spells around their lair. Trapdoor spiders, there's a variety of them too that have very, very specific instincts and specific behavioral patterns that are interesting to get into. And especially because like a lot of them evolved or sorry, not a lot of them. Some of them evolved to actually be their own doors. Like there's that one whose backside looks like an Oreo, and they use their backside as the door to their lairs. So, what are pythons in the settings or rattlesnakes? Most of the larger snakes are viewed as what is he called? Fiel, dragons. Fiel are the are like reptilian species within the mythos of Colony. Our video, Song of Origins Part 1, covers the origin of them. The Soda Sol, which are exceptionally large land animals, like giant pythons and stuff like that. The smaller snakes, like gardener snakes, hog noses, stuff like that, they're kind of viewed in the same realm as like birds and smaller reptiles and lizards, like gek, or bats. Like those are a smaller category of non-insectoid monsters that they call Soda, just beasts. and they're much more on the level of like if you were to compare them to Dungeons and Dragons kinds of monsters. They're dragons. They're these more titanic kinds of creatures. I'd say of any creature that could be likened to a Tarrasque, I'd probably say that it's an anteater. But yeah, speaking of inspiration, you mentioned possibly doing dinosaurs in a future Hex project. Have you seen Dead Sound's work on YouTube? Dead Sound. That sounds familiar. Let me look them up real quick. Dead Sounds has been working on a world of sapient dinosaurs that makes me think of Colony in a roundabout way. Might be worth a collab of some kind. Let me take a look. I'm always down to keep up with other species, or sorry, with other projects. Jeez, with other species. No, I love watching other creative projects. Oh, Saria. Yes, I am familiar with this guy's work, or girl, or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, Dead Sound. I've seen a lot of the Saria animations. Yeah, this is fantastic work. Yeah, I do keep up with Saria, as a matter of fact. um, that's not a terrible way to maybe get into like I guess if I was to do dinosaurs, I don't know how I would do dinosaurs. I don't know if I would want to do like sapient dinosaurs like that. Um, while that is cool, I think that Dead Sound is already doing it sufficiently. Don't want to step on toes. That's already cool enough. Um,
Not to mention that any uh new Hex projects would be like multiple years out.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
really gratifying to hear that people are excited about where we might go in the future, but we have a lot left to do just on this very first thing for Colony.
yeah. Colony is much, much more work than I think a lot of folks are realizing for how small of a group that we are.
That's
Uh,
part of why the work has to happen slowly, is because we're a small team.
We're a small team, and we're doing this in our spare time. Uh, the you know, if one day we're financially able to turn this into a full time job, I would love that. I would love to be able to like here in the town that I'm in the Portland area. I would love to just rent out like a small office that I would go to work on Colony every day. I would love to be able to do that so that way I can separate work from home, but that's a lot of financial stuff that like there's a lot of financial hurdles that we'd have to get over before I'd be able to accomplish that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any malignant poisons or toxins that poison the environment that exist in the setting? There are that I can't get into because it would get into spoilers for the novel that I'm writing. I will say this. I'll give you this. One of the uh, one of the areas, like the sub areas of Taman, is a swamp, and it is the location of an ancient battle where a great evil was like kept, and the ground, the moisture of the marsh itself, the moisture of the swamp and all of the standing water, all of it is from the moisture of billions of dead Sakuda and dead Ulukuta, the insectoid monsters, the children of the Amber. It's all of their decomposed bodies turned this area of this forest into a swamp. Just billions and billions of piled up corpses. The air of that area, because of the way that death pheromones release out of insect bodies, the death pheromones, and especially like should also clarify if you're not familiar, Mamoku are pheromone memories that that Sakuda can project and infuse memories into these smells that also have this like holographic aesthetic, like this holographic visual component to it. And when you breathe in the air of those pheromones, you are imbued with the memory that was left behind in them. Likewise, death pheromones, the death Mamoku, are released, and they contain the last few minutes or the last few moments of that Sakuda's life. It's the last things that were on their minds as they died. And so this marsh is just covered, like just forward and backward across the entire ground in nothing but death pheromones. And so as you're walking, if you were to walk into this swamp, you are just continually getting inundated with these memory, like these just horrific, traumatic moments of people's deaths right up to the moment that they die, and you're getting this over and over and over again by all of these different individuals from billions and billions of insects across this swamp. So yeah, it's not necessarily a poison, but it is like a no-go zone. You don't want to go there. It is a scary place to be. Hey, Reg5, thanks for coming. Thanks for talking to us and telling us about, like, reminding me about Soria, because I love Soria. And I hope you have a good one, dude. But yeah. Like you say, Cheese, it is, this area can drive one mad, precisely. It's almost like the scientific way of how I would have approached this idea of like in Mirkwood, in Lord of the Rings, Mirkwood has the air itself like is hallucinogenic, and can drive you mad. I wanted to like develop an in-world explanation for that exact idea, and so having this component of there's already something that if you smell it, you kind of hallucinate in a very mild way, and so finding a way to amplify that idea was very natural with the swamp concept.
So by the way, Mir,
Yes.
the game that you were talking about earlier, was that Arx Fatalis?
It could have been. It doesn't necessarily ring a bell, but it's been like 2 years since I talked to Asher about it, so long time. Could have been.
Okay, fair enough. Send you a link for it. It does match the description that you gave me of a fantasy game with magic where you draw runes.
Oh, I don't even know if it was on Steam. This was also a much older game, like a game from the 90s, I want to say.
This is a game from the 90s.
It is a game from the
On
90s?
Steam. Yep.
Alright.
90s, early 2000s.
Oh, this looks too new for what he showed me. I'm talking. Oh, sorry. I'm talking like this almost had the same aesthetics as like original Daggerfall, or excuse me, not original Daggerfall, original Elder Scrolls Arena. Like that's like the kind of the level of graphics that this game had.
And Daggerfall and Arena are pretty close to each other graphically, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Man, I just got flashbanged with the memory of the fact that Daggerfall has like 700 randomly generated dungeons, and none of them are good.
No, and the map really isn't made for
Walking.
the kinds of dungeons that they were producing for that game.
Ugh, man.
Hello,
It was a cool
Imbecilium.
idea. Oh, hey, Imbecilium. You know, that, like, the idea of procedurally generated dungeons, not a terrible idea. The technology was not there for what they were trying to do with it, though. Like, what they probably envisioned it might have been.
Yeah.
Greetings. I had to take a sick day, and thus I'm able to jump in to see how things are going along. How are y'all doing? Glad to see you here. Sorry to hear that you're sick. We're doing pretty good. Perp is working on cicadas. I'm doing pretty good. I came from, I went up this past weekend to Seattle to a Bionicle event, and that was pretty fun. The guy running the event, Aaron of Bricks and Wheels, excellent store host, very, very nice guy. It was very funny, like the way that he was talking about why he wanted to put the event on, because he was like, there was this one day a few months back, I had two people in the store at the same time who were into Bionicle. They were both looking for Bionicle, and so they were in the same area, sifting through the same parts, and talking a language that I just could not understand. and then he said, but the way that they interacted, the way that like the sparks flew in their eyes when they were talking about it, the passion that they had, it was magical, and I wanted to see more of that. So I figured I'd see about getting an event put together for it, and that's why he wanted to put that whole event on to begin with. So that was fun. At one point, because they were doing a building contest, I had brought a build from home to because they had two different contests. They had a bring your own from home, and then they had one that you would build in store. And so I brought one from home. I brought my praying mantis mock because of course I would. And I had the colony poster, so everybody was like, "That's the bug guy." But since I already brought a build from home, I wasn't gonna build for the other portion of the contest, the other contest. So I was just kind of helping sort pieces for everybody else who was building in there, and I probably sorted out about 200 masks out of the general parts bin and put them in their own bin. There was so many parts there. They had at least like a dozen and a half tubs, like 18 tubs worth of Bionicle parts. I guess it wasn't just Bionicle, it was Construction in general, but yeah. Sounds like a ball of a time. Also neat to see the sea cow getting some attention. Well, yeah, so we're working on Movement 4 of the Song of Origins, and Movement 4, slight spoiler, is when we finally get to see the Sakuda. And so Perp hasn't really gotten to draw a whole lot of bugs since he's been back working with us on the project recently. So he's practicing species design, so that way when we're doing the artwork, he has good references to work with. And how are you doing, Perp?
Bag.
Bug.
Can you use the bathroom?
Alright, sounds good. What are the most dangerous types of scorpions in the setting? The ones with large claw or large stinger? Technically speaking, from what I understand, smaller scorpions are the ones with more potent venom. I don't know why that is, but that's what I've heard. That's anecdotally the thing about scorpions is the larger they are, the less you have to worry about it. Smaller they are, you're probably going to be in a lot of pain, if not in a lethal situation. So the in terms of like the score, the danger comes mostly from just like how unaware you are of their presence in the vicinity, because they're ambush predators technically. They hide under rocks and they don't like to really be bothered, and if somebody gets within their territory, then that's, you know, they scare them off. So yeah, like I said, they're much closer to like trolls. They just kind of want to be left alone and do their hunting on their own time and not be bothered. Reason why is the smaller scorpions are more reliant on that venom. Okay, fair enough. So they would, I guess that would mean that they would be stinging you more frequently. It's not that the venom's more potent, it's that you're getting stung more than just the one time that a larger scorpion would use to just tell you to F off. Okay, I get what you... I think I'm picking up what you're putting down there. Is that the stylet cicadas used to feed on sap, I see? Oh! It may be. I'm not sure. Perp's in the bathroom. We'll have to ask when he gets back. I presume you mean like the proboscis thing at the bottom of the face there? Gotcha. Yeah. It's one of the things that we kind of talked about early on when we were developing the language is that some of the species that use proboscis could have some sort of like a, not a speech impediment, certainly it's a speech feature of just their mouth shape, is that they when they speak, their proboscises, when they're pronouncing F's, kind of they kind of like flare out, or like they overpronounce the F a little bit. So instead of fora, it would be fora. So yeah, that kind of idea. So I'm curious if that kind of concept, that speech feature, would apply to Sikau. Definitely something to explore on that idea. The Black Widows in the setting, what are they like? They're like Black Widows. They are territorial. They don't like to be bothered, but they are more active hunters as far as spiders go. More active, at least, than things like like Auroch, like tarantulas. The Black Widows, of course, being orb weavers, also would have much larger nets to catch prey in. They'd probably have multiple runes, like a series of runes that spiral in with their webs to like toward the center, and they would likely be entangling spells. Webs could have poison enchantments. That's absolute. Oh, excuse me. That's absolutely something that could occur. Write that down. Write that down. Oh, Perp, you had a question. That
Yep.
The proboscis on the what's it called? on the mouth of the Sikau. Is that for feeding on tree sap? Is the question that Imbecilium made?
Um, Probably. I'm mostly exploring what the original cicada is giving me to build off of.
Fair enough. I know that real cicadas, that in the entomemology group, the meme group, the bug meme group that I'm in on Facebook, there was a meme a while back that it was called Hand Meat was the name of the meme. It was that cicada could theoretically bite into you, and then use their digestive enzymes in their proboscis to start breaking down the meat in your hand and start slurping it up. So, hand meat was a term that was often found back a couple years back.
Yummers.
Oh yeah, jumping spiders. Jumping spiders are probably going to be our playable race of Auroch in the TTRPG. They're more social. They are more. I don't know. For lack of a better term, they're cute, but they are. And I feel like with a lot of their behavioral traits that they can create social relationships with like humans and stuff like that. Like they can recognize faces and stuff. That they would be a likely candidate for kind of breaking out of those bonds of that the ancient Auroch made with Zek. They'd be more disillusioned uh, from behaving the same way as the other Auroch species. So jumping spiders are probably going to be like eventually added into the game as a playable species and as like kind of redeemed children of the Amber. Uh,
We're still figuring some things out, but
yeah. Still working on the lore aspect before we get too far into the mechanical aspect.
yeah. Arak in general need a lot of lore work done.
Yeah. The common Salticidae win. I agree. Uh, One of our project members, Petrus, he had a pet jumping spider for a while. He said he really liked that guy. Perhaps their big eyes lend these children of a boon to manners of sight, mundane and arcane, and watch, and saw their existence for what it was, and decided not to play ball with Zek's schemes. Could be, could be. Like I, like we said, The lore is not finalized, and what lore there is still a little bit more esoteric and not quite all there just yet.
Itsy Bitsy Spider went up the water spout.
Write that down. Write that down. I know that come March, I'm gonna be going down to hang out with another one of our project members, and her and I are probably gonna write some lore together. So yeah, it'll be a fun time. Funnel web spiders would be scary. Apparently, they have some strong venom. That is very correct. Yeah, funnel web spiders, terrifying. I certainly would never want to come anywhere close to a funnel web spider.
No.
Oh, you know that spider that a couple nights back we were all in a call and there was a spider on my wall that I relocated outside. It was a small huntsman.
Oh,
Yeah. Very, very, very cute, actually. When I covered it up with the glass, it didn't even really freak out. It was just like, oh, this is happening. Honestly, I think the New World spiders might be more dangerous rather than the Old World spiders, such as funnel webs, tarantulas, and mouse spiders. Dude, it's like I have been kind of cooking up really crazy ideas because the Goliath tarantula I think it's in South America. I could be wrong, but that tarantula hunts birds. Like,
wow.
that thing is like, it's the size of a plate. Like, they're enormous. Not only that, they have like these fiberglass hairs. Yeah, that thing. Look at that thing.
Wow. Huge.
The hairs on its abdomen, it uses its hind legs to shave off, and they're like fiberglass shards that, like, yeah, they kick it at their targets. Yeah, they like embed into the skin of their targets. It's really irritating, and they're pains to get out. They're like almost invisible, like bee stingers just embedded in your skin. These guys are crazy. Urticating hairs, I guess, is the term for that. Thank you, Imbecilium. Tarantulas, when motivated, would probably be used as a blunt force instrument in sieges in the setting. That's not out of the realm of possibility, certainly. Any of the larger species, if they were inclined to, like the larger children of the Amber, if they were so inclined to perform sieges at this point in the contemporary point in the setting, they would definitely be taking advantage of their larger species that have thicker chitin to just be breaking down walls and stuff. Yeah. You know, it's interesting you bring that up as like as a campaign starter. There is a there is an abandoned city in the setting, an abandoned Terra borough called Teritura, or Turitera is what it's called. And there it was laid siege by an unfathomably large centipede that still lurks in the tunnels of the burrow. So yeah, that's definitely something that's happened. That idea of like some spiders getting together and just annexing a city, not out of the realm of possibility.
Army answer like, write that down, write that down.
I imagine this would only be with mountains that are okay with being stigmatized for associating with Children of Amber. For if I recall correctly, isn't there a big no-no amongst the Sakuta to parlay with the Children of the Amber? Yeah, there is. Very, very much so. You don't associate with them. Keep them out. Don't talk to them. Yeah. The in the case of like the jumping spiders, the jumping spiders that have kind of turned tail on Zek, that's going to be the explanation for when they come along within the story, not necessarily in the setting, but in the story. It's going to be a lot more nuanced than just, oh, they're more accepting, or anything like that. It's gonna there's going to be this interesting adjustment period, and the way that it all happens is going to be pretty organic to just the happenings of the story evolving. And I know that's super vague, but I kind of do have some of this stuff planned out for when for the story itself, but I don't want to spoil that for you guys. That's one of the big parts of the lore and the world building that I just refuse to tell you too much about.
It's going to be all solved like a 2000s era animated movie with a big licensed music dance party.
God, Illumination's gonna be all over it.
Uh,
Oh, if you'll excuse me for just a second, I have run out of water and I need some desperately. I'll be right back.
okay. trying out some different colorations.
And I return.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Do you think emperor scorpions would form empires with lesser species of scorpions beneath it? It's not that it couldn't happen. Probably not within the setting that I'm writing. It's just a little antithetical to the behaviors of scorpions, I suppose.
Yeah, they're scorpions, not ants.
Yeah. Although that being said, the spiders are generally also like more social in the setting than they are in real life, but not to the extent of like ants and such. Oh, whoa. Would it be possible for a well-coordinated group of Sakuda to use their stingers or other manners thereof to corral and control a Sota Sol? Um, at great cost to the health of the Sota Sol, I think it could be done. It would have to be an exceptionally well coordinated thing. It would be like you'd have to employ some very, very specific kinds of magic to make that work, but I don't think that it's impossible. It's just
Probably
very
also you would need a lot of Sakuda.
yeah, like several colonies worth of Sakuda. It's just a very improbable thing to occur. Yes. Oh, certainly. Yeah. Well, it's like this is something that I've kind of pondered as an idea, but it's not exactly the same thing. And it was suggested by a friend of the project a couple years back, that there could be like a large like colony of mosquitoes that have basically just become an infection on the side of a deer or something like that. That like on the side of a Sota Sol, as it's, and they just feed off of it. They're just this parasite that feeds off of it, and there's so many of them that it can't overcome them, and it's just barely hanging on for life. And like your goal as the party is to liberate the Sota Sol from this infection. So yeah, there's like not quite the same idea, almost antithetical to the idea that it's not necessarily controlling the Sota Sol. It's more like it's a parasite. America comparison speedrun win. Let's see. Cheese asked, it would be more of the Emperor Scorpion ruling out of fear because it's physically stronger, and the Empire would not actually be an empire, just somewhat organized group of scorpions. Yeah. That's probably more likely that it would be something like that, where it's the
the weak are meat and the strong do eat kind of a situation, and especially because like there's a lot of species of scorpion that almost exclusively eat other scorpions, so that kind of a hierarchy of a civilization, quote unquote. Theoretically, yeah, you could do that. That would seem more in line behaviorally than them forming a proper empire. The only reason it's called an empire is because it's controlled by an emperor scorpion. Sure. And I mean like it wouldn't have like the emperor scorpion would not be called an emperor scorpion within the world of Colony. All of the species have their own special names given to them, and they're only mildly informed by their taxonomical names. This coloration's coming along beautifully, Pert.
Yeah.
It does have wings, yes.
You okay?
Yeah, sorry, just stretching.
like I said yesterday, the drive kind of took it out of me last weekend. My my back's just been a little bit uppity. It's been a little bit better today, but just got to keep stretching it out.
Mhm.
How often are wildfires intentionally caused in setting? Probably, like, wildfires? Probably never. Arson? Maybe occasionally. But wildfires, like, no, that doesn't happen. Like, that's where they live, man. That's where everybody lives. You let a wildfire break out, you intentionally let a wildfire break out, that's like, that's you're only hurting yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, this isn't a setting where you can necessarily just travel really fast in a short amount of time.
Yeah, it like these are more or less closely to scale of their real world inhabitants. Like, if you were to cause a wildfire, like, it's not like somebody, like a person causing a wildfire. Like, there's no there's no fire brigade coming to put out the fires. It's just going to burn. There's nothing they can really there's very, very little that they'd be able to do to fight against it. So that's just not really something that anybody would ever intentionally do. You'd have to get just a ton of like mages, like row mages that have any kind of like speciality in summoning some kind of magic that could make it rain or something like that. And even then, that's a far cry from that even occurring, because that kind of magic just isn't really a thing.
And when you consider the effects of heat and smoke on insects,
Yeah,
that's not a situation that's going to end well for anybody who's even remotely in the area.
yeah. The I'm trying to think of like the closest thing that you could do to like any kind of like magical like prevention for the wildfire would be to invoke the blessings of Ngao, which would be like a Fora thing. They would probably do like some kind of a an offering to Lao to bring rains to quench a wildfire. That's probably something that they do when they know that there's a wildfire nearby, is they send prayers to Lao. Aside
But
from
even
that,
then, like, you're just praying, and you're
You-
hoping that an intervention happens.
right, exactly, yeah. There's yeah, there's just it's not a good situation to be in. I mean, even on accident, the fires of the moths are much less volatile than you might think. They're very self-contained, and the moths themselves are usually pretty astute about making sure that they put them out when they're done with them. And aside from that, there's like only a handful of other uh, locations where there are relatively larger fires, and those are usually like smoke saunas. Um, I imagine that they probably have some sort of an earth burial emergency system for smoke saunas in case a fire would break out like that.
Mm-hmm. At the very least, the impression that I get is that, like, your average Sakuda is perhaps a little more aware of their impact on the environment than, say, your average human.
Mm-hmm. I think that's likely.
They're very careful and they're very in tune because they have to be. If they're not, they're probably going to get eaten by something.
They don't get to be reckless from like a food chain point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wildfires do renew nature in certain places in the world. In particular, like, this is kind of the reason why I brought up like lightning strikes causing fires. It's unlikely because in the contemporary setting, there's a lot more moisture in the air. There's just like a higher humidity content, and there's a lot of mists that come during the night to usually keep a lot of the environment more moist. So lightning strikes can start fires. The storms that those lightning strikes occur in usually put them out before anything bad happens, or anything drastic rather. They're wildfires are definitely rarer in this day and age, at least within the setting of Taman. And it's not that it's not that they never happen. It's not that the Sakuda aren't prepared for them to happen, because they know that they do happen. They're just less likely to occur. Imbecilium says, so if I recall a while back, I asked about the lifespan of Sakuda, and it was stated to be around 40 years. Correction. It's about 10 years, but they measure it in seasons, so it's about 40 seasons. Does this change with other Sakuda, and if so, how, like in reference to the Sikau and their hibernation cycles? With the Sikau, the kind of the way that they've evolved over time is that they sleep for the first 9 years of their lives, and they wake up. In the setting of Taman, the cathedral that they reside in is it surrounds a large tree,
and they have these 9 segmented portions around the trunk of the tree, and these generations of Sikau will lay their eggs in one portion, and then the next years will lay them in another portion the next year, and so on and so forth. And so every year there is a day that the Sikau awaken, and they sing their praises unto S, and then they go about and they prepare for. They eat up the previous year's preparations and food stores while they prepare for the next year's. They are gathering food and water and all this other stuff for the next year's hatch. So they're always thinking for the generation ahead of them. And so they have these cycles that they go in every single year. But they live just about the same amount of time. Some of them will live a little longer than others, to the point where they will see and meet the next year's hatch, like the next year's congregation. It is much less likely that they would live long enough to see 2 years ahead of them. That's not to say that it's impossible, but it, less likely to occur. They would be regarded as an elder of sorts. Dude, that Sikau is gorgeous, dude.
Boy's wings were made out of like dental floss that went through the washing machine.
This all reminds me, I still have to go to like a dollar store, and if I can find like a tube of toy bugs to glue on to some of the player tokens for the game for when we start doing the trailer and stuff like that. I wonder if there's a dollar store around me. Gotta look that up. Probably look that up after the stream.
Yeah. That is striking on that gradient background.
Yeah. How's it feeling to finally be back to working on bugs, Perp? The eldritch horrors were getting to you. Is this an accurate measure of size differences between Fora and Sikau? Approximately, yeah. Not real world equivalents. The Fora would be much smaller, but in Colony, yes, this is about the correct size difference. Yeah, that's more like it.
There we go.
World accurate.
You can still fit. their like heads in their palms.
Yeah. They are like, I've often regarded the Fora as being equivalent to hobbits thematically within the world of Colony. So that size difference tracks pretty well. Caleb says, how does it feel to be working on bugs again, Perp? Bloody gargling. What a time to rejoin the stream. Maybe reaching the end of the stream here soon, I presume.
Yeah, it's a bit over 2 hours.
Yeah, we're at about 2.5 hours now.
And what a beautiful piece we have here.
Yeah. Absolutely excellent. Whereas Jade would say, absolutely excellent. Great work today, Bert.
Yeah.
I already know that we're gonna have to go through some revisions on the thinness of the legs for the when we get to the modeling process, but it still looks gorgeous.
I'm treating that as artistic liberty.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's like, insects are very difficult for 3D print stuff. I don't even know if this scale is going to end up being accurate to the 3D models.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only part that I can see being sketchy would be the last segments of the legs before it reaches the ankles. Those are obviously too thin. All the rest of it seems like it's like as thick, if not thicker, than the Fora's limbs. So as far as I know, all of our test prints with our test models with that limb size have come out fine. So
the more recent ones did. The very first test print, I think, had 3 of its 4 legs break off.
Rip.
And I think that poor one-legged Fora print is probably still hanging around somewhere in the workshop.
Okay. Well, even so, like, this will eventually get to the point where we're going to be able to do quote unquote print on demand kind of stuff.
Yeah, but not for a while. So any of you out there who are getting excited hearing about this, like, in the future, at a later date.
Yes.
Not right now.
We've had a lot of this stuff on the back burner as we've been like experimenting and testing our capabilities, figuring out our limitations to the technology.
And I would argue that basically every aspect of the project has kind of been rediverted to the Song of Origins at this particular moment.
Yeah. Currently, that is the main focus. I think, in general, just bolstering the art selection has also just been a much higher focus. And us taking advantage of that to be able to release lore material and get artwork for cards done, and just refocusing on getting the portfolio built up.
Right, I was telling Mir the other day, it's so nice to just finally have the nature of Zek's transgression be public information so that we can actually talk about it and write about it.
Yeah.
It's not a big secret. Not that it was necessarily like a secret. A secret. We were
Right.
talking live streams.
We were talking about it on live streams. We were talking about it on like, I mean, shoot, I did a whole lore reading back in like 2021 or something like that.
I think that one wasn't public though. That's Patreon exclusive.
Wasn't, yeah, that is Patreon exclusive. And you know, it's
Which,
funny
by
you
the
mentioned
way-
that.
Yeah.
So since we now are releasing the proper Song of Origin stuff, I went and privated that video, so they may not be able to access that anymore. Although they have the link for it, so they probably still can. Either way. What was your, by
But
the way,
speaking
going to be
of the
about?
Patreon. You should subscribe to the Patreon if you
Oh,
do.
yes. Please subscribe to the Patreon. I'll make sure that you get a link for the Patreon right now. One moment. There you go. You got a number of tiers and different benefits to being on each one. Please, please, please come by if you like what we do. All of our proceeds go to our artists and to developing just more of this wonderful work that Perp and Matt and all the rest of us do. It's wonderful. Well, Perp, do you think that you are ready to wrap it up for the day?
I think so.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Thank you for participating and asking questions and getting involved. You're wonderful. We love having you here, and just hope that you have a wonderful day. And y'all take care. Have a good one.
See ya.
Goodbye.